Right now, someone in your life is using psychological manipulation tactics on you. And the worst part? You probably don't even realize it's happening. These aren't just tricks used by master manipulators or con artists. These are subtle psychological techniques that toxic people, narcissists, and even seemingly normal individuals use every single day to control, influence, and gaslight the people around them. Today, I'm going to reveal 5 dark psychology tricks that are being used on you right now. Once you understand these tactics, you'll never fall for them again. Let's dive in. The first and perhaps most damaging manipulation tactic is gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone makes you question your own reality, your memory, or your perception of events. They convince you that what you experienced didn't actually happen, or that you're being too sensitive, or that you're remembering things wrong. Here's how it works in real life. You confront someone about something they said or did. Instead of acknowledging it, they respond with phrases like, "That never happened," "You're being too sensitive," "You're crazy, I never said that," or "You're imagining things." Over time, this makes you doubt your own judgment and memory. You start thinking, maybe I am overreacting, maybe I did misunderstand. The psychological effect is devastating. Victims of gaslighting often develop anxiety, lose confidence in their own perceptions, and become dependent on the manipulator to tell them what's real and what isn't. So how do you spot it? Watch for these signs. They deny things you know happened. They tell you you're too sensitive when you bring up legitimate concerns. They accuse you of being dramatic or crazy. And most importantly, conversations with them leave you feeling confused and doubting yourself. The defense? Trust your perception. If something feels off, it probably is. Keep records of conversations, especially if you're dealing with someone you suspect is gaslighting you. And talk to trusted friends or family to reality check your experiences. Remember, if someone consistently makes you feel like you can't trust your own mind, that's not a you problem. That's manipulation. The second manipulation tactic is called love bombing, and it's incredibly effective because it feels amazing at first. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with affection, attention, compliments, and gifts early in a relationship. We're talking constant texting, grand romantic gestures, saying "I love you" after just days or weeks, talking about your future together immediately. It feels like a fairy tale, like you've finally found someone who really gets you. But here's what's actually happening. They're creating an intense emotional bond as quickly as possible. They're making you feel special, chosen, almost addicted to their attention. And then, once you're hooked, the behavior changes. The affection becomes conditional. They withdraw it to punish you. They use it as leverage to control your behavior. The psychology behind this is powerful. When someone love bombs you and then pulls away, your brain craves that initial high. You'll do almost anything to get back to that feeling, which is exactly what the manipulator wants. Red flags to watch for. The relationship is moving incredibly fast. They're showering you with compliments and gifts before they really know you. They're already talking about forever when you've just met. And they seem too good to be true. Here's the truth. Genuine love develops over time. It's consistent, not explosive. If someone is coming on way too strong, way too fast, be cautious. Real connection doesn't need to be rushed. Trick number 3 is called triangulation, and it's one of the most cruel manipulation tactics out there. Triangulation is when a manipulator brings a third person into the dynamic to make you feel jealous, insecure, or in competition for their attention and approval. Here's what this looks like. Your boss constantly compares you to a coworker, implying they're better than you. A romantic partner keeps mentioning their ex, or flirts with others in front of you. A friend always talks about how great their other friends are, making you feel replaceable. The manipulator might say things like, "Well, Sarah never complains when I ask her to work late," or "My ex used to love doing this with me," or I was just talking to someone who actually understands me. The psychological effect is powerful. It makes you feel like you need to compete for their attention or approval. You start working harder, trying to prove yourself, changing your behavior to measure up to this other person. And that's exactly what the manipulator wants. They want you insecure and desperate to please them. The key to spotting triangulation is noticing if someone constantly brings up other people to make you feel inadequate, jealous, or in competition. They pit people against each other instead of addressing issues directly. Here's how to handle it. Refuse to compete. If someone is comparing you to others, recognize it as manipulation. A healthy relationship, whether romantic, friendship, or professional, doesn't require you to constantly prove your worth against someone else. You're not in a competition. And anyone who makes you feel like you are isn't worth your time. The fourth dark psychology trick is the silent treatment, and it's more damaging than most people realize. The silent treatment is when someone punishes you by withdrawing all communication and attention. They ignore your texts, refuse to speak to you, act like you don't exist, and they don't tell you why or for how long it will last. This isn't taking space to cool down after an argument. That's healthy. The silent treatment is intentional emotional manipulation, designed to make you feel anxious, guilty, and desperate for their attention. Here's why it works so well psychologically. Humans are social creatures. Being ignored triggers the same pain centers in your brain as physical pain. Studies show that social rejection activates the same neural pathways as getting punched. When someone gives you the silent treatment, your brain panics. You don't know what you did wrong. You don't know how to fix it. You don't know when or if it will end. So you become consumed with trying to get back in their good graces. You start overanalyzing everything. You apologize even when you're not sure what you're apologizing for. You chase them, beg them to talk to you, promise to change. And that's exactly the power dynamic the manipulator wants to create. Signs you're dealing with the silent treatment. They abruptly stop all communication without explanation. They refuse to discuss what's wrong. They ignore you in person or online. And they only resume contact when you've learned your lesson or begged enough. The solution? Don't chase. If someone is mature enough to be in your life, they're mature enough to communicate. The silent treatment is emotional abuse, plain and simple. Set a boundary. I'm happy to give you space if you need it, but I won't tolerate being ignored as punishment. When you're ready to communicate like an adult, I'm here. And then, hold that boundary. The fifth and final dark psychology trick is something called dark mirroring. And it's the manipulative version of the rapport building technique we talked about in our last video. Remember how I mentioned that people naturally mirror each other's body language when they connect? Manipulators weaponize this. Dark mirroring is when someone intentionally mirrors your interests, values, opinions, and even your trauma to create a false sense of connection and make you think you found your soulmate or perfect friend. Here's how it plays out. You mention you love hiking, suddenly they're obsessed with hiking too. You talk about your difficult childhood, they coincidentally had an almost identical experience. You express your dreams and values, and they claim those are their dreams and values too. It feels like you finally found someone who truly understands you, someone who's exactly like you. But here's the manipulation. They're not showing you who they really are. They're becoming a mirror reflection of you to gain your trust quickly. Once they have it, the mask comes off. The psychology behind this is powerful because we're naturally drawn to people who are similar to us. It's called the similarity attraction effect. When someone seems to match us perfectly, we drop our guard and trust them faster. The red flags. They seem to agree with everything you say, especially early on. They adopt your interests suspiciously quickly. Their personality seems to shift depending on who they're with. and they have an uncanny way of saying exactly what you want to hear. Here's the truth. Real relationships involve disagreements, differences, and authentic personalities. If someone seems too perfectly aligned with you, especially right away, be skeptical. Genuine connection involves two whole, separate people coming together, not one person becoming whatever the other needs them to be. So there you have it. 5 dark psychology tricks that manipulators use every single day. Gaslighting makes you doubt your reality. Love bombing creates addictive emotional highs and lows. Triangulation makes you compete for attention. The silent treatment punishes you with emotional withdrawal. And dark mirroring creates false connections. Now that you know these tactics, you can spot them. And once you can spot them, they lose their power over you. The most important thing to remember is this. Manipulation only works when you don't know it's happening. Awareness is your greatest defense. If you recognize these tactics being used on you, trust your instincts, set boundaries, and if necessary, distance yourself from people who use these techniques. You deserve relationships built on honesty, respect, and genuine connection, not manipulation and control. Which of these manipulation tactics surprised you the most? Or have you experienced any of these? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep diving deep into the psychology of human behavior and the tactics people use to influence and control others. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.